now people are listening to the middle of our conversation at the beginning of the show. And that show, of course, is the Ad Drop Fantasy Football Show for week 5. Yes, week 5. Yes, we're in week 5.
You should know this.
You're correct, and I do. Clearly, I was quizzing everybody. I like to talk in questions. So, how are you guys doing, Trevor, Landon, Henry, John? How are you?
Why did I have to be the question?
Yeah.
Trevor's a statement and I'm a question. That's great. Okay. I'm doing good, though. I'm excited to talk some fantasy football with you guys.
We're excited to cover the Jets for the 1 week they are relevant franchise.
Yes.
We probably still want to talk
streak
about
across the pond this Sunday, guys. Potential, but they were square dogs, so not feeling good.
Yeah, that's not going to be a good one, but whatever. So we got a lot of injuries to talk about, of course. I feel like it was probably the healthiest week. Like, there weren't severe injuries for the most part this week, but there's a lot of annoying ones for fantasy football, I feel like. So as soon as you come in and have questions, definitely ask away, get a sidetrack. That is my hope for sure. But let's talk about quarterbacks right away first. And we'll give ad drop suggestions along the way. I don't have any in mind ahead of me, but we'll figure it out. Jimmy Garoppolo, let's talk about him first. He obviously exited. Trey Lance came in, looked all right, made some plays. Second half, threw for a couple tutters. His injury, Garoppolo, calf injury, the timetable is tied directly to the performance of Trey Lance, I do believe. If Trey Lance plays super well, I would bet Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out for 3+ weeks, possibly forever. And if Trey Lance starts losing some games right away, I would expect to see Garoppolo starting in week 7. But I can't imagine people were starting him. I don't think anybody was relying on Jimmy Garoppolo for their fantasy team, which is good. However, this is an interesting question I thought about halfway through this previous sentence that I want to ask you guys. So Trey Lance, I love Trey Lance, so I'm biased. So let's get that out of the way. Would you drop Justin Fields for Trey Lance, knowing supposedly Justin Fields is going to be benched immediately once Andy Dalton is healthy? Andy Dalton's still battling his way back from that knee injury. Could be back this week, could be back next week. To be a sacrificial lamb for that offensive line yet again. So who knows how long he'll be healthy for. But now we could be seeing the beginning of the Trey Lance era in San Francisco. So Trevor, if you are super hurt at quarterback, if you are super desperate, say it's a 16-team league, or say Justin Fields is a backup quarterback on your bench, would you rather have Fields or Lance right now?
I'd rather have Lance. I don't think it's close. Nagy's going to take back this offensive play calling, and when he does, Justin Fields is going to take a nosedive. Fields made some good plays. He looked solid. They played the Lions, so that really means nothing. This team is already bad enough and has been decimated by injuries on the defense, which makes them somehow even worse. He made some good throws, but at times he looked like a rookie. If Darnell Mooney is his best receiver, who is a good player, by the way, but if he's his best receiver, that's problematic. I'm not sold on any of those tight ends. Whereas for Trey Lance, he might not be great, but he's more like Jalen Hurts. Hurts isn't a good quarterback, but he has the legs, so that makes up for a lot. I think solely on that, Lance is the guy to play.
Henry, are you agreeing with him?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, guys, I don't get it. Maybe I am just missing something, and you can fill me in on what I'm missing. But Twitter seems to be going off about how Justin Fields was just dropping dimes, and Matt Nagy's getting crucified yesterday when he comes out and says, okay, when Andy Dalton's healthy, he's still my starting quarterback. That's still the same thing that it was last week. Justin Fields didn't play that good. What do you have, 200 yards passing, no passing touchdowns, interception against the Lions defense? You ought to be able to do a whole lot more than that if you are going to be a every week starter in the NFL. I don't understand what he did that was so great. Like there was a couple nice throws, but the one throw to Darnell Mooney had to make a heck of a catch because it was a bad throw. So, Trey Lance, 50% completion percentage. He kind of got thrown into the fire there, though. So I don't want to totally judge him based on Sunday. Do I think he's ready to start on a weekly basis? No. But in terms of going forward, I think Zach, you laid out the situation there where if Garoppolo's out or if Lance plays well, Garoppolo may continue to be out. And that's not going to be the case, I don't think, in Chicago. Like Nagy just refuses. And is it the right or wrong move? I don't know. I actually tend to think it's the right move, just given where Fields is at. But I think Lance has more upside.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to everything both of you said. I think Fields played all right last week or this week, however you want to put it. But to your point, it was against the Lions. The Lions are absolutely terrible. They have nobody. They don't have a pass rush. They have a bad secondary. So. Right. Like they have nothing on defense. They're very bad. So, Justin Fields' situation kind of sucks. And on top of that, which is the most discouraging for me about the Field situation, like they're not even using his legs either. So if they're not even going to use his legs either, I'd rather go with a rookie quarterback with question marks who I know is at least going to run the football, because at least it gives me some sort of a floor there. Moving down the list, we talked about Andy Dalton. Teddy Bridgewater was concussed against the Ravens. It sucks. It seems like, of course, it would happen to Teddy Bridgewater at this point. They go to the Steelers this week. Obviously, concussion is a nightmare to predict for injuries because he could be cleared tomorrow. He could be cleared a month from now. We really don't know. So, and Teddy, like, there's actually could be some people relying on Teddy Bridgewater as their starting quarterback after the first 3 weeks. So, would you guys drop Teddy Bridgewater for Trey Lance at this point? Or what's your thoughts on Drew Lock? Would you be willing to pick up Drew Lock against the Steelers if he is for sure starting? And on top of that, you guys answer all these questions here. Does it impact any of the pass catchers, the move from Bridgewater to Lock for you, Henry?
I don't know that it would impact any receiver specifically. Just thinking off the top of my head, maybe it might be a boost for Cortland Sutton, just given what we saw Locke do with Sutton before, back when Sutton was healthy and Locke was still trying to figure it out. Going back to the first question, I'm not rushing to pick him up though. I think I would rather, to be honest, start Zach Wilson probably this week over Drew Lock. Both are turnover prone, and for my money, Wilson's going up against a much worse defense in Atlanta. So coming off of a good game last week, Steelers are kind of in desperation mode here, and I think it's clear that they're not going to win by their offense. So I expect the defense to step up. You got Denver going across the country to play that game, so it's back east. I'm really kind of down on Broncos for fantasy in general this week. What was the other question? Did I hit them all?
Sure. I don't know. I think I maybe asked if you'd pick up Trey Lance for
Trey Lance over Drew Lock.
If you had Bridgewater, etc.
I would go with Lance. Yeah, for this week, I would go with Lance just because of the rushing upside, I think there. And I would rather, the Cardinals are a team that I have to go back to the drawing board on, I feel like, after they beat the Rams here this week, especially on the defensive side. I feel like I might have mishandicapped that side for Arizona before the season began. But the rushing upside from a fantasy standpoint, Lance can have a so-so day passing, but as long as Shanahan's willing to let him kind of, play backyard football when he gets in trouble and use his legs, I think there are points to be had there. So I would go in that direction, I think.
It's amazing to me that Teddy Bridgewater is only 28. Like,
Yeah.
dude has been in the league since I was like a sophomore in high school, and he's 4 years older than me. Like, it feels like he's 45 at this point. Talk about a bad career too, right? Like, obviously the non-contact, he has to play for the Vikings. He goes to New Orleans, he plays well. Like, people forget 9 games, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's good enough. Um, he's just a calamity of errors, and half of them really aren't his fault. It's just injury bug. He feels like a poor man's version of Tyrod Taylor. I like him as a person. I think he's okay, but again, those legs from Trey Lance, undeniable. Even when he does come back, I mean, there's a reason their strength of schedule was worst in the league best in the league the first 3 weeks. It's because they play some absolute killers to end the season from here on out, pretty much. So even if he does come back, even if he is healthy, even if he plays out of his mind, I still don't see any great production. We're talking about fantasy because he is much less dynamic than Lance probably could be.
I agree with all that. I don't really need to trust Teddy Bridgewater, so if I was relying on him, I'd be willing to drop him. I think he's droppable. Definitely hold on to him if you can, just to see if he plays this week, I guess. But I'm not overly excited to play him against the Steelers, even though quite literally half of the Steelers defense has a groin injury, which is insane to think about. But I think the more interesting question is with those pass catchers, just because more people obviously are relying on them. Right now, obviously, go to flurrysports.org under the NFL tab. We got stats. Cortland Sutton has been that deep threat guy. His average depth of target is 17.6. In my opinion, I think it would help him the most. I think Drew Lock's going to be more willing to chuck it deep to him. However, we did see a nice connection between him and Noah Fant as well. Noah Fant he's second on the team in targets, one behind Sutton. His average depth of target has been 5.7 yards. He's basically just been getting hit with crossing routes and just check down passes from Teddy. But yeah, it makes me like Sutton more for sure. I think it's good. And if you can buy low on Noah Fant, I think that's also an interesting thing to do because he hasn't been amazing. There's certainly tight end injuries and tight end issues right now. People obviously who valued Robert Tonyan as a top 5 guy, 7 guy, hell, top 20 guy, may be a little bit worried right now. And Noah Fant would be a person I would try to buy low on given this injury. No other quarterbacks. Let's go to running backs. Joe Mixon, low ankle sprain week to week. That typically means a couple weeks. He's for sure not going to be playing this week. In his absence, it should be Samaje Perine getting the start, getting the majority of the snaps. I think Samaje Perine's a solid player. He's basically produced every time I've seen him get on the field with an opportunity. The rookie, Chris Evans, will be behind him. He'll be mixing in and out, I'm sure. He is the more electric back of the two. And Samaje Perine, if I know 2 things about him, it's 1, he'll produce when he gets a shot, and 2, he'll get injured soon after. So I don't think it's long lasting, but he's one of my top pickups if I need a running back to start this week. Trevor, what do you think about Mixon and that whole Cincinnati backfield? Again, they play the Packers too, which is also good.
Yeah. Real quick, what happened to Deshaun Hamilton on the Broncos? Like, dude had 4 really good weeks to end 2018. They just don't use him. But that's just my piece. I love him. He helped me win the championship. Anyways, back to Cincinnati running backs. Totally the same thing. P. Ryan, obviously I like him because he's playing the Packers. But to your point, he does get hurt. I mean, everybody in that Bengals team gets hurt. I don't know if I'm as high as I usually would be. I'm going to assume a lot of things here, and keep in mind it's a Packers defense, so it's probably not going to happen. I would assume if Jair isn't playing, or if Jair's out, and even if he is in with all the people out or injured, I would assume, this is just me, correct me if I'm wrong, they would blitz more. because they don't trust that coverage as much, try to get to the quarterback quicker, not an all-out blitz, but have two safeties over top and try to get to him quick. I don't think this running attack is going to be much for Cincinnati. They're going to be playing from behind. I don't think they can stop the Packers if the Packers keep the same game plan. So if I put those two things together, I think he's a flex start. I don't think he's anything more, at least for this week.
Yeah. Henry?
Is Trevian Williams on the practice squad?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
He might be active, but he would be below Chris Evans.
Right. I'm just not seeing him on the actual depth chart, so I'm assuming they haven't elevated him yet. Okay. Trevor, first of all, you said you were surprised that Teddy Bridgewater's 28. I don't know if it's the haircut or the beard or what. I'm just surprised Samaje Perine's only 26. It feels like he's been bouncing around a lot longer than that to me. At any rate, I like him this week. I'm on board there with you guys. I really like the Bengals this week. Catching 3 points. May or may not be an upset article. Pick tease. Sorry, because you're both Packers fans. I think I would roster Chris Evans, even in deeper leagues. Just knowing, like you guys talking about, obviously P. Ryan's injury history, he could go down like that. I don't know that I'm running him out there to start him. I was looking at projections. I don't know what ESPN's projections are actually based off of, but they.
Do you want me to tell you?
Magic. It's garbage.
I mean,
complete
I feel
garbage.
like it's IBM Watson or something because they have that might be the sponsor. Who knows? Anyway, I felt like the gap was like a little too close. P. Ryan's 11.6-ish, I feel like, in our PPR league that I'm in on there. And Evans was at 7.1, which just felt too close to me. Like, I think P. Ryan gets the majority of the workload. He was the only other back he used in that Thursday night game, even when Mixon went out. And like you said, Zach, he can produce when he gets the opportunity. So.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick a better receiver of the two, I would still say it's probably Chris Evans. But I assume they'll be trailing because they're not going to upset the Packers, even if the Packers have no defensive players, because the Bengals are very, very bad at football. No matter what they showed you, their coach is a fucking, he's a loser. Like, he sucks, dude.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that guy.
No, neither are the Bengals, but they don't fire anybody.
Zach Taylor is the definition of falling upwards. He is 3-1 by being somehow less incompetent for just enough than his opposition.
Well, he did face Urban Meyer last week.
Yeah,
so.
and Urban Meyer was
already making plans for the weekend during that second half.
It was still a run for his money in the second half.
Let me just look at his coaching resume here because it's nothing. He was a graduate assistant in 2011. And he went straight to the NFL after that with the Dolphins, who sucked. So he went, I think, under Gase there. Then he went back to college. Then he had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay and then got a head coaching job.
The word of the day, nepotism.
No shit. Yeah, it'll be on both sides of the football. It'll be Zach Taylor versus Joe Barry's defense, and nothing will happen.
Pretty soon, Zach, if we just have a cup of coffee with McVay, we'll both be defensive line coaches at Alabama and Ohio State at that point. So that's pretty cool.
No kidding.
I had to look up what nepotism means, so that's where I'm at in this discussion.
I only know it because Zach brought it up, and I've asked that question before, so...
Yeah, it was the word of the day when Joe Barry got hired. So, yeah. For the third time. Anyway, let's continue with running backs here. Darrell Henderson didn't practice. He's going to be fine. He just has hurt ribs, and it's just a pain threshold thing. So why would he practice yesterday or today? Makes no sense. David Montgomery avoided serious knee injury, hyperextended knee, should be out for a few weeks. Damian Williams is clearly, in my eyes, the top overall waiver wire ad of the week. He's a great player. We saw him have a lot of success with the Chiefs. He is going to get a lot of receiving work. Obviously, with Tariq Cohen still out, he's not back yet. He's going to be an every down guy, I would assume. Obviously, it's a bad offensive line, so take it for what it's worth, but workload still is going to outweigh any, shitty play in front of them. Also, if Bill Lazor's calling plays, they're going to be good. Bill Lazor's a stud. But I like Damian Williams a lot. What do you think of him, Henry?
Oh, I'm right there with you. I'd go back to last year even, and what if Damian Williams hadn't opted out? Like, would he have even wound up in Chicago? What role would have he had with the Chiefs last year? Borderline Super Bowl MVP, going all the way back to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I still think that was quarterback bias that Mahomes got that award. I don't know how you can, really take a dump on Damian Williams here this week. Again, the concern is the offensive line. I'm assuming Nagy's not going to take back play calling this week. So it really comes down to the offensive line. And the thing that I think, if you do have any doubt as to whether Williams can produce or not in a clear lead workhorse role there, just look at last night's game. The Raiders have defensive issues, defensive injuries of their own. So, they're 3-1, but middling in terms of adjusted efficiency defensively against both the run and the pass. They're not great in either respect. So it's a game that it intrigues me, because depending on how the Bears defense plays, I feel like they can kind of keep it close. So unless the Raiders are able to run away and kind of hide, like, that's how I see it. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to. So, but even if the Chicago is trailing, Williams thrives as a pass catcher. So there's going to be PPR value, I think, regardless in this spot, especially if Dalton comes back and we're Charlie check down him again.
Yeah. Well, one of my buddies who's number one on the waiver wire, I just won't comment on why, but he says Laviska Shenault is the number one ad. I don't think it's close. I think it's this guy by a mile. We'll get into Shenault later because I got to say my piece on that. But people forget at the end of the 2018 season, he won a lot of people their leagues. I think that was back when Kareem Hunt was their running back. He goes down. I think Darrell Williams goes down. In half PPR, he dropped 17, 27, 21, and 12 over the last 4 weeks. Just in the half PPR, it's like the third guy. He's definitely talented. The touches are definitely going to be there for him. And like you said, Henry, he is a very good asset out in the passing game. So he's not going to be one-dimensional. When you look at the Bears, their passing game to receivers has been Darnell Mooney, and that is about it. They need that, and they will certainly utilize it.
Now, he did have a thigh bruise. I looked it up real quick, and the first reports are like he'll be fine, but just something to monitor. I don't know, Zach, you tend to be more injury fluent than we are. Is that something that prospective people looking to pick him up should really be concerned about, cutting into his workload or him potentially even missing the game? I wouldn't think so.
No. I mean, thigh bruise, it just basically means, I would assume, that it's cramping up quite a bit. It's locking up on them. But a really, really good way to cure that is to inject your leg with a bunch of shit. And the Bears have access to a bunch of shit to inject into his veins. So I think he's going to be okay. I don't think the Bears are one of those teams that avoid doing that stuff, unlike the Packers, which is unbelievable. And I can't believe we're still living in the 18th century. But yeah.
That's not completely true, because Rodgers was on some good shit during that comeback against the Bears a couple years ago, 2018. He was on some good shit then.
Yeah, he had a southern accent at the end of the game. But they don't give players Toradol. They don't give players like pain killing stuff like that. They take extreme painkillers like pills where you can get addicted and die, or a la Brett Favre, can't form complete sentences half the time anymore, which is great. The Raiders are favored by 5.5 in that game. I don't know why. That game is for sure going to be close. Neither team is even capable of blowing another team out, in my personal opinion. So I think Damian Williams is going to be in a competitive game. I think he's going to be super good. In terms of the rest of the Bears team, though, let me look to see exactly how many snaps he played. Cole Kmet played the second most snap share in the entire NFL this week, 98.3 of snaps. So he probably came off the field for one play. Cole Kmet's done nothing this year, and something's going to click eventually. He's too good of a player for that not to click. If you need a tight end option, we're skipping around a little bit here now, I guess. But if you had Logan Thomas, if you're still trying to start Robert Tonyan, I quite honestly would rather have Cole Kmet than Robert Tonyan. I'd rather, obviously, Logan Thomas is a different situation because it's injury, but I'd rather have Cole Kmet than Jonnu Smith. I'd rather have Cole Kmet than a lot of people just because I know that opportunity's there. I know it is. And there's no game plan where he can get fused out because it's like if they get up by big, what are the Bears going to do? Are they going to put in Jimmy Graham to block somebody? No, it's going to be Cole Kmet still. So he has a clear path of all the snaps, and production has to come, especially if the team refuses to throw the ball to Allen Robinson. Kmet has to get some targets at some point.
The one interesting thing will be depending on what other tight ends are out there. Like for dynasty leagues, I think he's probably available, but for regular leagues, I think they're actually, this year's weird. There aren't any tight ends that I'm super excited about, the Darren Wallers, those guys. But there are a lot of really solid guys, like Mike Gesicki. I think he's had 7 targets a game the past 3 weeks. Jared Cook obviously looked good. He gets a lot of targets. So there are guys there, but to your point, Kmet's going to be there eventually. The Bears are stupid, but they're very good at drafting running backs and tight ends. Granted, half of them do turn into all pros immediately when they leave, but it's a 50-50 shot.
True. I like the tight ends, whole group this year. I think it's fun to sort through them. Obviously, Dawson Knox is going to be a top priority pickup for a lot of people, and rightfully so. He's been producing. He's a stud. His value's overinflated, but he's a stud. He has as many red zone targets as Stephon Diggs, as many red zone targets as Emmanuel Sanders. But he has way less targets than both. He's barely getting looked at. He just has happened to come down with touchdowns. So if we're going
college ball, guys, real quick,
Ole Miss.
Thank you.
Bumfuck of Ole Miss, that's great.
That's why he flew under the radar.
You watch your mouth.
Yeah, that's why nobody.
Sure.
That's why he's
We're rising up out of the ashes after
getting spanked by
getting the show up against Alabama.
Yeah.
Also, don't forget
I saw that coming a mile away.
Don't forget my boy Dalton Schultz too. I talked him up a big game last year, and I was like, man, it sucks they're going to use Jarwin more because Schultz is good. And they're like, no, we're going to use Schultz. And it's a weird thing from McCarthy, especially seeing how he's doing this year, where he kind of knows what he's doing, ?
McCarthy, no. But
for one thing, maybe.
Maybe. To your point, just last week, if you're trying to gauge the value of both of them, Dalton Schultz played 80% of the snaps. Blake Jarwin played 55% of the snaps. So they're on field together even at times. But Dalton Schultz played the second most, tied for the most snaps. He played the same amount of snaps as CeeDee Lamb, played more snaps than Ezekiel Elliott, more snaps than Amari Cooper. Granted, he left with injury and came back. More snaps than Cedric Wilson. Clearly, he has Dak Prescott's trust. I like him quite a bit, actually. He's not someone I'm ever going to feel good about starting because there's going to be a 0 week coming pretty soon. Take your finger.
Nope.
What's his role?
Not true.
What's his role?
His role is the glue guy. He is the Bobby Portis of the Dallas Cowboys. You might not respect him. He might not be the most talented, but by God, he's the most beautiful bastard in the Cowboys. Mostly because everybody else is very hateable outside of Dak, but point still stands.
I actually like CeeDee Lamb, which, by the way, do you guys view him as a buy low after like 2 games of doing next to nothing here? Like, I know there's a lot of mouths to feed, and I guess that's my only hesitation. Like, is he going to be overvalued based on name? But based on these recent performances, I feel like you have to at least inquire about him here, right? Like, they've been flowing through the tight ends and the running backs, and I wouldn't expect that to continue every single game the rest of the year.
What I like about CeeDee Lamb's value is the people who drafted him were the fucking idiots who like overvalued him thinking he's going to be a top 5 guy. And those are the type of people who overreact to everything. So now after a couple of really bad weeks, he has no role in the offense. He's going to be terrible. So now I think you can buy low at like a decent value. I don't think he's ever going to be a wide receiver 1 in this offense. I think Amari Cooper is a better player. I think he's the top receiver on the offense. But like to your point, if you can get him at like wide receiver 3 value and start him at a wide receiver 2 or something, sure. That'd be great.
Yeah. Like he's not a wide receiver 1 for me either, but he's better than 3.1 fantasy points or whatever he had this week.
Yeah. Let me look at his snaps here. Blake Jarwin. Yeah, so their snaps are different this week. Last week, Schultz played 4 more passing down snaps than Blake Jarwin. So I think he's going to continue to see more snaps just because he's a better blocker. But, man, he is the definition of the tight end position this year. I feel like he's going to be boom or bust, which is all of them but Kelsey, I guess, at this point. So it doesn't really matter. Moving down, DK Metcalf didn't practice, but he's going to be fine. Will Fuller hurt? Duh. Like, of course he is. We already know what happens to everybody else's value since we started the first 2 weeks without him. Amari Cooper, like I said, he went out of the game, came back in, finished the game. Hamstring pull. He's going to be listed as on the injury report for the rest of the season now. But he should be fine. We still don't know anything about Sterling Shepard or Darius Slayton for the Giants. We don't really know anything about A.J. Brown or Julio Jones for the Titans. All hamstring stuff, which sucks. Those are the worst injuries, man. I hate hamstring injuries.
As a reminder, Zach, and for those who don't listen to the Flurry Sports podcast. There's still a bet between Jake and I that needs the people in the audience that are watching can also decide. Jake and I have a bet on Julio Jones, whether or not he's a top 30 receiver in the NFL this year in terms of fantasy. So, hey, if you have a suggestion for who loses, don't leave it up to Zach or Jake. Within the realm of reasonableness, okay? Like, we're not going to play, real life Squid Game or something, but, just if you got something, let us know.
Such a good show. Squid Game's wild, man. Okay, tight ends here. Higbee didn't practice. He should be fine. Gronkowski hurt ribs. I can't imagine he comes back this week. Logan Thomas. What was his injury? Hamstring. Imagine that. I don't think he's going to play this week. The backup should be Ricky Seals-Jones. I don't really want anything to do with him. Ricky Seals-Jones comes through when you least expect it, and everyone's expecting it this week, so don't pick him up. I guess it improves Curtis Samuel a little bit, but I don't think there's anybody I'm rushing to pick up or overvalue from Washington as a result. I guess maybe in the red zone, it would improve. Probably Curtis Samuel, actually, if they can use him in a variety of ways down there. Otherwise, maybe Gibson. But yeah, they still don't really have a red zone threat outside of Logan Thomas, which is a big mistake. Maybe that's why they have been avoiding the red zone for this entire year.
Yeah, too bad McKissick can't be that guy, for people saying he's going to be the pick that wins you your league. He's been good, but this has been a weird Washington backfield with him and Gibson. Like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Cardinals from last year, just somewhat more functional. because there's really no rhyme or reason for any of their carries or receptions from week to week, it seems.
I agree. McKissick last week, 39% of the snaps. Gibson, 56% of the snaps, which is so frustrating. Like, I don't know, man. There's nothing J.D. McKissick does that Gibson can't do better. Like, Gibson's a better player in every regard. And even still, there's plays that they have neither of them on the field. Like, what are they doing? Washington sucks, man.
Like, they came into the season and they said, hey, guess what? We're going to use him like Christian McCaffrey. So either you do that, and that's fine, or you don't do that. But if you're not going to do it, why even say it? Like, no team's going to be like, oh, you had us fooled. You know, that changes our whole defensive game. Do they even really know what they're doing?
They meant Christian McCaffrey last year when he sat out the entire season. They're just going to try to model his game after that, I think.
Taylor Heineke knows what he's doing.
Does he?
Oh, yeah.
Does he know?
Heineke.
It's exactly so what we can't even talk about Washington anymore without my brain just going to that. So I do have a couple questions for you guys. They're both backfield situations that just kind of popped up here this week, and I'm trying to figure out how I view them. So Seattle's is the one that I think is kind of fantasy relevant or fantasy detrimental, however you want to look at it. But is Alex Collins like actually a thing now? Because Chris Carson did not play well here this past week. And then the other one that I'm not sure how fantasy impactful it is, unless you drafted Myles Gaskin, is the Dolphins. Malcolm Brown was on the field for almost 3/4 of their offensive snaps this past week. I know Miami's line's a dumpster fire, and so it's hard to get excited about any of those three down there, with Salvon Ahmed being the other one. But Myles Gaskin did absolutely nothing. So I guess if I'm sitting here and I have Chris Carson or Myles Gaskin, is there another back on the same team I should be going to grab in waivers this week? Should I be looking elsewhere in waivers? Like, what am I doing?
Well, for the Seahawks, I like Alex Collins. I always have. I think he's a stud. So I'm not sure if I tweeted this out or if I just thought it this week. I feel like Chris Carson's one of the biggest disappointments for me this year. Like, he's not even really hurt. Like, he's a little bit banged up, but he's just been so lackluster. I don't get it. So I wouldn't rush to pick up Collins. Am I panicking about Carson? A little bit. But there's really not much I can do there. For Miami, Myles Gaskin's another week away from being fully droppable, I think. I don't want anything to do with him. And the one nice thing about Malcolm Brown now, like, not only is he getting 2/3 of the snaps last week, he's clearly, in my opinion, the short yardage / goal line red zone guy. So he's not going to get vultured either. But yeah, I don't really want anything to do with Miami until Deshaun Watson gets traded there. Then I'll get a little bit excited. But until then, I don't know.
Chris Carson's got 16 carries week 1 and then has gotten 13 or 12 cents. Makes no sense. Like, I'm not saying he should be getting 30, but dude can play. Myles Gaskin pisses me off. And it's not even his fault. He played only 10 games last year. He wasn't even the bona fide starter. He was running back 28, and he only scored 3 touchdowns. Like, he's clearly very good in pass catching and running. He's what Washington thinks McKissick is, and they just don't use him. Like, I can't think of a game where I was like, wow, Myles Gaskin really dropped the ball. Like, they should take away snaps. Like, it makes no conceivable sense of any kind why this man is not getting touches. He's going to be one of those dudes that is going to go somewhere and he's just going to go off. Like, if he went to New England, he would have a field day this season with James White out. It makes no sense to me at all.
Speaking of New England, I feel like there's no doubt in my mind, and they shouldn't do this, but I feel like they're going to trade for Marlon Mack since he's on the trade block, and then they're going to play him ahead of Damian Harris. I feel like that's the most
I will go
thing to do
cry.
right now. Yeah.
Damian Harris is like my
He's
outside
very
of
good.
any Jet and Derrick Henry. He's like my favorite NFL player right now.
He's so good.
I do have to run though, guys. So
Agreed.
I will catch
Okay. Yeah. Larry.
I'll pick up the slack for Henry. I'm talking about Damian Harris.
you. Do that, Trevor. Make me proud.
Damian Harris, again, pisses me off. Makes no sense. Like, we talked about this at length in our Fantasy Football podcast, which is tomorrow at 7:30? 6:30? 7:30? 7:30?
7.
Okay, 7. Cool. None of those times.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about it. He stayed in New England all off season. He put in the work. Week 1, they give him 23 carries. He runs for 100 yards, 2 receptions, 17 yards in the air. Yeah, he had a fumble, but he was the only reason they were in that game. Next week, they give him 16 carries. Again, effective, 62 yards and a touchdown. And since then, he's got 6 and 4. Like, even in the first 2 weeks when he was effective, he played 53 and 41% of the snaps. Like, Bill Belichick is a great mind at coach. Does he think you can win a game without running the ball? Like, he is the antithesis of LaFleur. Like, who is going to run the ball? Like, is it going to be Brandon Bolden? He kind of sucks. He was cool like in 2015. That was it. J.J. Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson, nobody even knows who they are outside of their own family members. Like, what are we actually doing here? Like, Damian Harris should be a solid running back 2 and 3. He's arguably not even rosterable at this point. It's ridiculous.
And like, we knew his workload was going to be super low, at least from a running point of view against Tampa Bay, just because you can't run against them. So why even try? I mean, 4 carries for -4 yards, though, might be a little bit worse than I projected. But the good news is he caught 2 passes. They went for 30 yards. That's good. So maybe they can use him now in that receiving role at least part of the time. They're not going to give the full James White role to him. But looking at the snaps from the game, Harris was on the field for 61% of the snaps, 28 of the 36 total snaps he was on the field for were passing down snaps. By far the most of any other running back. Brandon Bolden next with 18. But yeah, I don't.
That's good because I have a lot of bad matchups, and we'll talk. I mean, I'll ask you this question tomorrow because it's going to be ridiculous, but he's on my flex. Like, it's gotten to the point where, like, if he can't do that, it's like, I gotta let you go. It's like, it's so
I'll say this.
frustrating.
I love him this week. Like, he gets to play at Houston. Patriots, by all means, should be able to move the ball the entire day. Like, I think he won't necessarily be super efficient running the football, but I think they get to the red zone, they hand it to him, and he falls in the end zone. It could be one of those signature New England 3 touchdown running back days. Like, I really like him. There's no reason why he shouldn't be good.
Damian Harris, we know you're watching on YouTube. You can't comment because that would be too obvious. We understand how it works. If you fall into the end zone twice, I will donate $100 to whatever charity you run. You literally just have to fall in. Just, lay back. And I mean, it's a Texans. It should not be hard. We know Mac Jones' white ass ain't running in. So just fall into the end zone, $100. It's not that much, but guess what? I don't make that much, so I don't make the rules here. Just do it.
Yeah, Mac Jones might do a Sam Darnold impression and start taking zone reads into the end zone.
We need to talk about this. Sam Darnold's new nickname is fantastic. Have you heard it?
What is it?
Vanilla Vic. That is a fantastic nickname. And we need to pound that nickname because that's a good one.
Man, what's going on in Carolina? That makes no sense.
I love it because coming into the season, I think all of us here were really high on DJ Moore. He's been even better than expected. I mean, what is he like? Wide receiver like 7 or something? Dude is so talented. He's only 24 too. Yeah, wide receiver 4. He's obviously his favorite target. And it's kind of weird seeing that Robbie Anderson, like we've talked about, was with Darnold. But I mean, it's working. And at this point, Matt Rule, I don't think he's the smartest head coach out there. He's not dumb enough to go away from that. This offense actually has weapons, which is weird. I think they might be better with McCaffrey off the field. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think they actually might be.
I think Joe Barry, the offensive coordinator and play caller there, like for my money, for at least a true offensive coordinator, I think he's the best in the NFL. But Sam Darnold, Vanilla Vic, for someone who is incapable of reading a defense still, and I just watching him play, he still doesn't know how to. He's very good at reading the defense for like zone reads. Like, I don't get it. That zone read on the goal line was pretty. It was very nice.
He only does it when he has to. And the best part about it, my favorite part, was he sold the hell out of that fake. He could have just done a little like bitch pump, wouldn't have mattered, but he sold the hell out of it. It's like, okay, Broadway, let's settle down. Just get your ass in the end zone. But I loved it.
He even fooled himself, I think.
Yeah.
So leading the NFL right now with 5 rushing touchdowns. He is quarterback 5 for the season. And I know that because we're going to write an article about this. If you take just 2 of his touchdowns away, and that's not being like, we should be able to take more than that away for at least projecting his value. But let's just say he has 3 rushing touchdowns. He drops all the way to quarterback 12. So, yeah. So like, I think I did the math that 36% of his total fantasy points come just from his rushing touchdowns, not even the yards, just the touchdowns. So now, with that in mind, how confident are you about like starting him going forward? This week, Carolina plays
Philly.
I mean, that's not a bad matchup. Like, would you start him as a QB1 this week?
Yeah, I would. Like, I'm pretty sure he's been in my articles the last 2 weeks, and we'll have another one coming out tomorrow. Well, all of them are coming out tomorrow. Streamers. Dude is consistent as hell. Like, even if we're not looking at his running, which say whatever you want about that, and it's fair. I mean, especially that 12-yard touchdown run, he had no business getting in that end zone. But like, you look at his pass attempts, 35, 38, 34, 39, completions between 23 and 26 all game. Passing yards, this is insane. Like, it doesn't mean much, but I think it's cool. 279 yards, 305, 304, and 301. Like, he's
efficient. Yeah.
You plug him in, he's going to go 25 completions, 300 yards. You know, he's got 5 passing touchdowns.
And 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. he's got 5 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, which 2 of those against the Cowboys. But he's like, kind of reminds me of like a Kirk Cousins, but able to run the ball. Like, he's efficient. Like, he's nothing crazy. You're going to start him and you're going to get laughed at against people who don't really pay attention. But he's consistent. Like, he's not going to kill you. And in fantasy, if you're like me, if you're like a lot of people who stocked up on running backs and wide receivers this year, you don't have that number 1 quarterback, and he's a very good option to have.
And what I do like about him for right now, but it worries me going forward, like every single completion he has are to wide open wide receivers. Like, they draw it up better than anybody else. And at some point, that separation is going to get smaller. That window is going to get smaller. And we will see Sam Darnold take a lot of sacks. Mentality in the chat. Should I give up Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, and Logan Thomas for Darren Waller, Austin Eckler, and Michael Thomas? That's an interesting one. I think, again, it depends on your other running backs, your running back depth. But assuming you have at least 2 other respectable running backs, I think I would, just because I like the upgrade at tight end that much. What about you?
I wouldn't, which is tough for me because my love for Eckler is very well known. And McCaffrey, injury-wise, granted, he had 1 very bad injury last year, but injury-wise, he's been a huge question mark the past 2 years. But for me, like, I've always been the kind of guy, I love Waller too, but at tight ends, you just need to not get 0. And Logan Thomas should be back sooner rather than later. I think he's serviceable. And so if you can count on McCaffrey and Chubb to be healthy, Logan Thomas is going to be enough to let you ride that talent. And Michael Thomas, for me, I mean, you know, he's kind of like Saquon for me coming into this year. I don't want to touch him. I don't want to look at him. I don't want to think about him at all. But, you know, if you do take it, I don't think that's something that kills you, because if Michael Thomas does somehow do well, I mean, that right there gives you the trade.
Would it change your mind if he was sitting at 1-4 and needing a win this week? Since McCaffrey might not be back, I'm sure he's not back. Logan Thomas is out. Obviously, he doesn't have Michael Thomas, but he has 2 starters at least instead of 1.
It depends, because if you need a win and McCaffrey's out, obviously, depending on your league, I would. But Eckler doesn't even have that great of a matchup this week with Cleveland. Like, he's going to be used a lot. He'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, that would change things. I'm assuming if you have McCaffrey, Chubb, and Thomas, you're not 1-3. But I mean, fantasy is a weird thing. Fantasy is, I've got a lot of horror stories. So
fair. Let me look at our waiver wire column just to see if there's anybody else we really need to talk about picking up. For other quarterbacks listed other than Vanilla Vic, we have Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan. Like, I like Kirk Cousins. If he's available, pick him up. For me, I'm not touching Matt Ryan, even though garbage time points may be a real thing, but I still don't want any piece of him.
Yeah, Matt Ryan, he's just not good. Like, he might be the worst MVP in a long time. Like, he's not a good quarterback. Even that season, like, you look at the team around him and you're like, well, no shit. Like, he probably should have won by a lot more too. He's just not good. I mean, he's passing it 35, 46, 36, 42 times a game, and he's crossed the threshold of 17 points once. Like, what are we doing here? And it just, he played New York Giants one of those games. He played Philly one of those games when he couldn't even cross 10. Dude might be the most disappointing, annoying quarterback. Like, every quarterback has their thing. Matt Ryan is basically Ben Roethlisberger, except Ben Roethlisberger at least won something in the past.
And, like, not only I never thought Matt Ryan was a good quarterback, but, like, mentally he was always pretty good. He could make the right decisions and do that. This past week, needing to drive the field to win, no timeouts, time ticking, he decided to throw it to the middle of the field. Then he decided to take off and run, and then he got all crybaby pissed off because they held him down, didn't let him get up. Like, there was no shot to win. You take off and run. What are you going to do? You're going to get 10 yards at most. Time's going to run off. Like, he's checked out. Arthur Smith looks bad as a play caller and head coach. And, like, Cordero Patterson's their only good weapon right now. He's, like, versatile, can do a number of things. Calvin Ridley's good too, but defenses know that. But, like, they're not even playing Cordero Patterson that many snaps. It seems like they're not trying to win, and I don't think that's a bold take.
Well, and for me, I think they could have a very good system in which they play both Cordero and Mike Davis. I think, I haven't watched any of their games because the Falcons, but I'm just envisioning if you go in a shotgun formation, Davis on the left, Patterson on the right, vice versa, Ridley out wide, Pitts, he's a receiver, let's be honest. You can do so many different things there. And it just seems like Mike Davis is the run, maybe a couple passes, and then expect Cordero to lift you to greatness. Work. And it just seems so vanilla. That's the only way this team is this bad. It's got to be too vanilla.
To your point, they would do that. They would be much better running a 2 running back set instead of running a 2 tight end set, with Pitts being one of the tight ends. They've been doing that. They love Zacchaeus. He played 80% of the snaps this past week. No point in doing that. Tajay Sharp played 1 less snap than Cordero Patterson did. And Cordero Patterson had 3 touchdowns. So, like, what are we doing? They're very bad at football. It's embarrassing.
Like, are still stuck at, like, week 3 last season where Julio got hurt, Zacchaeus had 1 good week, and everybody's like, pick up Zacchaeus, including me. They're like behind everybody. But has there ever been a further fall from grace by a team than the Falcons after choking that Super Bowl away. Like shit immediately. And they common sense by everybody on the team goes out the window. Like it's not like they lost a ton of talent. They just immediately started sucking.
Yeah. Your internet's getting a little weird right now, so we may wrap it up. But yeah, they immediately, like, defensive people got hurt, I guess. But boy, there's no excuse for everybody forgetting how to play football. Last couple things. Michael Carter has been the majority leader in the Jets backfield, but he's still not a person I'm rushing for. Latavius Murray's unowned in 2/3 of leagues. I guess I would take him. Like, I think he's a flex play this week, probably. He should be the majority leader. He's getting the red zone carries and should get a chance at a touchdown every week. Should he? No, but that's kind of what they're doing right now. They didn't even play Tyson Williams last week, so I don't know why. Wide receivers. Darnell Mooney's still available in 60% of leagues. You shouldn't do that. He's very good at football. And Hunter Henry is available in 2/3 of leagues. And not that I feel like he needs to be picked up and started yet. However, this week against the Texans is a good matchup. And he should at least be owned in more leagues than Jonnu Smith. What's your thoughts on those two tight ends?
So real quick, we need you to repeat because I just put my computer on priority for Wi-Fi. So
Okay.
Could you repeat that?
Hunter Henry is unowned in 2/3 of leagues, and I don't think anyone needs to rush to pick him up, but he is getting more targets now. He's getting more involved now that he's more healthy. He has a really good matchup against the Texans, which I like. So I basically said I wouldn't rush to go pick him up, but I think he should be owned in more leagues than Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, his floor isn't good. I think you'd have to be in a really deep league to be looking at him because, like we've talked about, I think there are more capable tight ends this year. But target-wise, 3, 4, 6, 5, like it's nothing special, but it's going up a little bit. He's getting looks, especially if you're in PPR, that'll add up quickly. I don't think over Jonnu Smith 100%. Jonnu Smith, I don't know what's up with him. I never thought he was a fantastic player, but I think if you're going to give him all that money, I don't know why the hell they're running their offense this way. You could say that about Damian Harris. You could say that about either of the tight ends. But yeah, if you're talking him or Jonnu, I think it's got to be Hunter Henry. But, again, don't race to pick him up. It's really if you're down to your last-ditch effort.
Just looking at the whole season for where these tight ends rank, Hunter Henry in PPR leagues is tight end 18. Jonnu Smith is 22. And I just think it's interesting to look at this tight end position because even though Darren Waller hasn't been amazing, he's clearly tight end 2 still. Rob Gronkowski missing a game is tight end 3. Dalton Schultz is tight end 4. Dawson Knox is tight end 6. George Kittle is tight end 10. Anyone who drafted George Kittle right after Darren Waller is pissed off, and you should be, and you should feel bad for being dumb. Max Williams, tight end 13. Tyler Conklin, tight end 14. And it may hurt people to see Robert Tonyan as tight end 29, 1.1 points ahead of Dan Arnold. So that's where Robert Tonyan is right now.
Hey, don't you talk like Dan Arnold isn't a specimen. He came in one week, short week, and he balled, which is saying something because he's on the Jaguars and he doesn't know the playbook. But
let's talk about him. I want to see his snaps here. He legitimately balled. That's okay. Just thinking back to the Thursday night game, and of course you're biased, obviously, same school.
Yeah.
I like Dan Arnold too. I think he's a good player. What percentage of the snaps do you think Dan Arnold played?
I would say probably 85 at least.
Like, I feel the same. He played 32% of the snaps.
What?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I guess a little high because I thought you were gonna say like 95. I probably would have said 70, but still, that's insane. Like it felt like he played a decent amount of
a
the game.
lot.
But
Yeah.
like people don't listen to him. It's weird they never go into his backstory. Like for as much as they talk about him, it's weird they don't because I think if people did, he'd be the next like big thing in terms of everybody talks about him and inflates his value. If you're not, this dude went to Platteville. He was a wide receiver all 4 years. One of the best wide receivers in the WEAC. He shattered hurdles records. D3 school, I understand, but still by a mile, like shattered them in the hurdles. He can jump out of the gym like nobody's business. And now he's a big tight end and he still has a speed and he can jump. And Jacksonville traded for him for a reason. And him looking like that and us thinking he was there after his first week, he's going to be a part of it, especially with Chark breaking his fucking leg. Like, dude's
Yeah.
going to be in this offense by a lot.
And the funny thing is, like DJ Chark was the deep threat for the Jacksonville Jaguars, clearly. I think Dan Arnold might be now. I think he might be the deep threat. And maybe it's because the only thing he did before this year in his career was do jumping jacks 80 yards down the field and catch footballs. But to your point, former wide receiver, super athletic. We see it with Darren Waller. Not that he's on that exact same level, but I think he's an athletic guy who can create mismatches. And they traded him for a reason. Traded a good player away for a reason to get Dan Arnold. He should have a role going forward. Loss of receiving weapon, obviously. Laviska Shenault got a bunch of targets playing out of the slot. I think he's going to continue to be heavily targeted, especially with that weak offensive line. He'll be targeted underneath. I get it. I don't think he's a wide receiver 2 or 3. Like, I'm not excited about Laviska Shenault. I would much rather take a shot that Dan Arnold like somehow emerges as a top 12 tight end because I think that's a legitimate chance.
First of all, before we talk about Shenault, because I'm glad you brought that up. Dan Arnold, like, he's had really good rapport with quarterbacks historically too. Like, people didn't pay attention because why would you? But like in those games, like at the end of the season when Arizona was just out of it, like he was catching touchdowns. Like last season, he at most got 4 targets a game, and he was tight end 23 for a guy who, I mean, he had 438 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. Like that's not great, but he was in an Arizona offense where he was maybe like the 7th option. Like I'm not saying he's going to be a Bob Tunyon, but you look at the physical abilities. Everybody loves him wherever he goes. He's got a good rapport. He plays well. I mean, I'm surprised they even played him on that short week. They're clearly going to use him. So he's a good option going forward just to keep an eye on because I think it'll be about 2 weeks before anybody even pays attention to it. But for Shenault, like I'm so glad you brought that up because the Jaguars the Bengals were bad, okay, but the Jaguars looked good in the first half. And a lot of that was because guess what? You have a 1,000-yard rusher and you start to run the ball and you run options too. Like you can't do that all game, but I look at this team, this defense sucks. So the best way to keep them off the field is to churn the clock, run the ball, and guess what? You also have 2 receivers left. So everybody's thinking they're just going to pepper it to Shenault. Now you have Arnold. Arnold's an actual option. And you have a running game, like a solid running game. That's also going to relieve the pressure off Lawrence probably a little bit because that offensive line sucks. So I just look at this team. I think if Urban Meyer has any shred of intellect, which questionable at this point, if we're being honest, they're going to run the ball more. So to your point, I think Shenault could be a 3. Him being a 2 is ridiculous. I don't see a route that happens. No pun intended.
And obviously, young quarterbacks and experienced quarterbacks like to throw it to big-bodied guys. Dan Arnold's a 6'6" tight end who runs like a wide receiver, and that does not come around very often. And again, I'm not saying they're a one-to-one comparison, but who's a very similar situation? It's Darren Waller. Like, it's an extremely athletic, big guy, and you never know. Like, he should be on people's radar.
Somebody clip this and put it in the Louvre. Dan Arnold is 6'6". He can jump like a panther. He gallops like a gazelle, and he's made of granite, and he catches footballs, and that's it. dude, dude is talented. Like, obviously, it doesn't always translate, but guess what? He's on the fucking Jaguars, so it's probably going to translate.
Yeah, they don't have many other options. Let's end with this, and we're switching notes here to Lombardi sweep because I want to make a plea to Brian Gutekunst. Jalen Smith was just cut from the Dallas Cowboys. Let's make a play for him.
Wait, what?
We don't. Yeah, he was just cut.
What the fuck? And, why? Did I miss something here?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but let's take advantage. Let's get a linebacker. Hey, I know Devondre Campbell's great. Let's have a second linebacker in our 3-4 system. That would be great. Like, let's get him.
Hold up. This is actually really funny now that I think about it. Wait, what's his last name? Jalen Brown?
Yeah. Jalen Smith.
Damn.
Smith.
Okay, good. I was like, the shooting guard from the Celtics? No. Okay. Good.
Oh.
I was a little confused.
Sure. Let's get him too.
Wasn't he the same dude that just... Wait, Jalen Smith... Why is it showing me the wide receiver? What the shit? Okay, anyways. Wasn't he the same guy who just bought out like 500,000 grand worth of jerseys to get his number? And then it didn't even matter anyways. That would be really fun. That would actually be a really good idea. I think it would also be a good idea to pick up a damn cornerback. Like, whether or not Jair's hurt, like, there's some good guys there. Like, there's some names still there. And for as much as, like, we kind of crapped on Stokes at the draft for, relying on his speed a lot and not being a guy that we should have taken with that pick, we should have traded down for him. He's much better than King, and it's not close. And he's serviceable as a 2. As a 1, hell no, but he's serviceable as a 2. So if you're the Packers, you pick up a Smith, you have somewhat of a defense now.
Right, like, well, when everyone's getting hurt left and right. I'm not sure. I know that they have a bunch of linebackers. They have all been stepping up and looking pretty good, and maybe it's a playing time issue, and he talked back to the coaches. That wouldn't surprise me. But I would assume, be a pretty hot commodity. So yeah, someone's going to pick him up. Someone's going to improve the defense quite a bit immediately. And boy, it would be nice if that was the Packers, even though I know it's not going to happen.
Well, it is going to happen.
How much money could we save? Let's cut Zadarius Smith right now. Let's cut our losses. Let's cut him. I know he's injured. Fuck it. Let's just do that, and let's sign Jalen Smith. That seems like a good idea.
Don't worry. I tweeted "please" at the Packers in all caps, so it's happening. You're welcome, Packer fans.
Nice.
That might get 2 views. Besides the point. It's just like one of those things. It makes no sense why you wouldn't at least talk to the guy. And then also you can be like, hey, who's one of the biggest rivals of the Cowboys? Not all those sucktard teams in the NFC East nobody cares about. The Packers. But we're not going to play them. Coin still stands. It's just, man, it's just so interesting. I'm shocked that they dropped him. That's interesting to me. But yeah, you talk about Z and Preston Smith. Everybody's like, oh my God, they're amazing. They're amazing. They're amazing. Preston Smith tackled a quarterback and an offensive lineman. That's the only thing he's done all season. Like, we pay him this much money, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. 2 NFC championship games, they combined for 2 pressures.
Yeah.
I get you have bad games, but when we need you most, you don't show up, like, at all. Cool. You got a sack and showed us your snub shirt against the fucking Vikings in week 14 to win the division. Doesn't matter because you don't show up. Like, Jalen Smith is going to be a man. He's going to want to kill some dudes because he got released. He's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, I like Preston Smith more than you, but I dislike Zadarius Smith more than everybody, I feel like. So I'm not sure if there's a more overpaid person in the NFL.
Well, how much is he making and how much years are left? Like, at this point, it's like, is he even going to come back healthy? Well, and then, even when he does come back, is he even going to be worth it? Back injuries don't mess around.
Yeah, I'm not for sure. Let's see. LaFleur apparently thinks he's going to come back, but I don't think he will. Yeah, Jalen Smith wouldn't be a replacement for him, obviously. It would be an upgrade from Chris Barnes. That'd still be a nice upgrade. And Jalen Smith flies around. Like, he will make tackles. I can promise that.
Him and Devondre Campbell would actually be very good. And I think he'd take some of the pressure off Campbell, like some of the weight off his shoulders. Can we release Ty Summers too? Because Ty Summers fucking sucks. He's the Dean Lowry of the linebacker core, except shittier.
We could, but behind him is Oren Burks. So
put Jalen Smith there. Change his position. I don't care.
I know the Giants are going to just pick up Jalen Smith, but it would be really cool if the Packers could.
I feel like
he's
it's
going to be the Blake
Chiefs.
Martinez replacement.
Maybe it's going to be where they turn around their defense. And everybody's like, why the fuck did you give him Jalen Smith? Wherever he got, I mean, he's going to be a commodity. I would love to see him on the Lions, though. Like, him and Dan Campbell would be electric. He would kill at least 2 people this season. And by kill, I mean, like, seriously concuss and knock out at least 2 people.
How interesting would it be if, like, trade deadline mid-season, Detroit became like a destination for players? Like, players are racing to get to Detroit.
Here's the thing that I will never understand, like, as a Packer fan, like, and especially as like a Badger football fan or like a Milwaukee Brewer fan, all that, like, you go to these places like the Bucks before Giannis, the Brewers, like, look at the Bucks. Giannis is like 26. He's already basically a god here. Think about how, like, they would build a statue of you for getting a sack in a playoff game at Detroit. Like, I would take money to go to Detroit. You have no pressure. The fans will love you forever. And if you do anything, like, have you seen the Family Guy episode where Stewie's at preschool and he kicks a soccer ball and they make a statue out of him? Yeah. That would be him in Detroit. Like, that would be, wouldn't that just be fun? Like, you and your buddies just go there and say, hey, let's play for the Lions. That'll be awesome.
Maybe.
Go Lions, man. I'm a Lions fan now. I'm a Lions fan. After Tucker hit that field goal, I'm all in on Detroit.
It would be kind of fun to be a Lions fan, I feel like.
Oh, we could have a podcast on Fridays, and it could be called the Ford Field Fiesta. Yes. Yes. It's gotta happen. Gotta happen.
I feel like we need to market it around Dan Campbell, because as soon as Dan Campbell's gone, I'm not sure if I want to stick around.
You know, Dan Campbell's a dude that would, like, jump on our podcast, like, randomly. Like, he'd ask to join, and he'd be like, hey, guys, that's not true. Actually, we planned this, and just tell us his whole playbook.
He would do that. I kind of want to.
I love the Lions. I'm going to use all that free Fanatics cash from pickup. Go to Flurry Sports, play pickup bets. You get literally free money for just being right, which if you listen to us, you're going to be right a lot of times. And guess what? You can buy a Lions jersey, which actually might be something that I do for Jamal Williams, because I love Jamal Williams and I love the Lions now. Or DeAndre Swift.
Who would you get?
DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is
up. Oh, look, a fantasy question. Probably
okay. LeBron's brain, our guy is back. Taylor for Robinson and Evans. I'm assuming that's Jonathan Taylor. I would
and James
say.
Robinson.
Oh shit! Why did I think Allen Robinson again? Ooh, that's interesting. I'd go Robinson and Evans. Like, I don't like Evans. I've been very, very high on that rock, but Taylor doesn't make sense. Like, they gave Hines, he's a top 10 paid running back, and they give him 5 snaps a game. Jonathan Taylor has never impressed me with the amount of stuff they give him until last week. So I'm selling, questionably high or low on him.
Yeah, I like Jonathan Taylor, obviously 2 Wisconsin guys here, but assuming you're looking to upgrade your wide receiver core as well, I would probably do that, just because there's a chance. Now, this requires Jacksonville to do something smart, but there's a chance they double down on Robinson and make him the lead back like he was last year. And if that's the case, I don't think there's that massive of a drop off from Taylor to Robinson. And then obviously you get Mike Evans, inconsistent. I obviously dislike him as a player, but I think he's going to get his targets, and he's clearly a wide receiver 2 or 3. So yeah, I would do that trade. Do we want to go back to Lions talk? Or what?
God, I'm so hyped. I was thinking about it the whole time. I was thinking about the Ford Fiesta. We could bust out the sombreros, man. The Macarenas, and just go to town at midfield and fourth field. You know they rent it out for like $50 an hour. You know. They don't got anybody wanting to go there.
True.
I mean, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yo, Detroit.
What if we did
Go on.
I was just gonna say, what if we did like a one-off show and just see, like if we do Ford Fiesta Fridays, Fiesta Fridays. There we go.
Yes. So first of all, we're doing that. Go on.
Okay.
Keep going. I liked where this is going. Let's keep building on this. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to bring an umbrella to a brainstorm here.
Make merch.
Ted Lasso line. Have you watched Ted Lasso yet? Season 2?
Not yet. I'm waiting. I'm just going to go absolutely ballistic this weekend. But let me tell you, it's going to be amazing. Lions, I'm going to tweet this at you. Okay? If there's any way you can even get us parking to go to a Lions game, I will be there.
I'll go.
Full
I'll
force.
go to a Lions game.
I've always really wanted to go to Ford Field. My friend is a Lions fan. I will fully support the Lions if they just like even reply, because I am all on board for the Lions, baby. They ain't winning the Super Bowl, but they might go 500.
Maybe. I don't think you have a lot of like influencers or a lot of fans in general outside your state lines. So if you want to expand, go outside the borders. Who?
And Ninja plays video games. Ninja. So yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And he's not even relevant anymore. Like he gets like barely any streams now. So I think we should do this. If you give Jamal Williams a show every week, you give us like a podcast.
Oh my God. Why am I more excited for this than the Packers season? Like, fuck the Packers. I'm all on board for Ford Fiesta Fridays. I want Jamal Williams on the podcast. Oh my God. Yes. The possibilities are endless. Dude,
I gotta figure out what jersey I want to get.
I'm too excited. You get a
For some reason, I want to get. Like logically, yes, but for some reason, I kind of want to get Khalif Raymond. Like he's pretty good. He's really fast.
You do understand we're going to talk about the Lions during Lombardi Sweep, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Especially if Luke isn't able to come too. So
if you're still listening, again, this is for us at this point. But this is, hey, you know what? Lions, get at us. Any of the Lions. We will be back.
That in the back there. That's not Packers.
That was the old us. We've changed.
Yeah. That's right.
As long as you don't hire Joe Barry.
They've made that mistake once. They are not doing it again. We did it though. So tomorrow, if you have fantasy football questions, 7 p.m. Central, Trevor and I will be here going through the Week 5 fantasy football rankings, comparing that to the industry consensus. I'm interested to see how I ranked this past week because after doing my rankings Sunday morning, Fantasy Pros was very helpful with freezing the website and not saving any of my rankings. So I had 5 minutes left to go quickly trying to rank players. So that was really fun. But that will be better this week, I'm sure. And then 8 p.m., hopefully Central, will be Lombardi Sweep. We'll talk about the Packers, though. We're not committed to the Packers at this point.
Talking about the damn Lions, baby.
Yeah, we might. We will. Like, that's... We will. We'll be talking about the Lions.
We could have a Lions podcast on Wednesday, too. We could call it the Wacky Williams Wednesday. Dude, possibilities, man. I'm telling you. But yeah, for real. It'll be a good time tomorrow. The rankings are going to be good, too, because, hey, if your rankings are wrong, that means you do better. That's how they rank them, obviously. So
I was looking at the accuracy right before coming on. So I have the tab up here, and I don't want to be that guy, but I will. So the number 2 overall ranker for the entire season, this is where he ranks in each category. 31, 26, 5, 40, 36, 92. That doesn't seem like the second best to me, because it's not the second best, but what are you going to do? Like, all you got to do is rank high. Even like the first place person, they're number one in quarterback, so they're just number one. Like, it doesn't matter that they are 159th in tight ends. Like, that's irrelevant, I guess.
You know what else is irrelevant? The Green Bay Packers, because the Detroit Lions are coming to town, baby. Let's go. I'm all in, baby. Ford Fiesta Fridays, Wacky Williams Wednesday. We will see you there.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Tune in for sure. Later.